Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Ko-Dan Armada. If you're familiar with those words, they are of course the beginning words from the arcade game shown in the movie The Last Starfighter that was originally released in the mid-80s. Now, a brief history about the movie. Basically, the movie is about a teenager who lives in a trailer park who needs to get out and just do things. He's always so busy helping everyone else in his trailer park that he lives in that he never really seems to have any time for himself. And he really wants to go to college, but it just seems impossible for him. Anyway, within the trailer park is a very cool arcade game called Starfighter. And as it turns out, the teenager, the main hero of the story rather, he becomes very successful at playing this game. And long story short, he ends up in space actually defending Earth as well as the other Star League planets. So of course, like a lot of other movies of that type back in the era, Atari was able to secure the rights for the video game for the home adaptation versions of the game. However, the movie did not do well at the box office, and as a result, the home game releases of The Last Starfighter were never realized. Except that prototypes, especially the one for the Atari 5200, was pretty much completed and ready for release. So here we are. Today's focus will be on the 5200 version of The Last Starfighter with some complete gameplay and a couple of strategies and tips that I have for you. Now you'll notice here right off on the title screen that it shows a difficulty level at the bottom. If you use the pound sign or hashtag on your keyboard controller, you can switch between difficulty 1, difficulty 2, and difficulty 3. For simplicity, I'm just going to leave it on difficulty 1 to keep this video as short as possible for the gameplay. The basic strategies and tips that I'm going to show you work the same regardless. So to start the game, you just have to press the start button. You'll launch, and immediately you'll find yourself above the planet Rylos, which is in the Celos 4 star system in the game. So real quick, I want to describe what we are looking at. This, of course, is our main computer display, and we are currently flying in orbit above a planet. These are Ko-Dan fighter ships. And over here, these fancy graphics that you'll see, they're just fluff. They really don't have any meaning or any use whatsoever. Over here is our current radar. So obviously enemy ships will appear in this radar relative to us. Next to that, you have two little black lines that kind of go up and down here. Those are your laser temperature sensors. So whenever the temperature of the laser gets to be too hot, of course, the laser will fire sporadically and just kind of be a problem, and we'll need a chance to cool down a little bit. Then we have some more fancy graphic displays. Over here we have these little dashed lines. These are actually your ammo count for what is known as your surface starburst. Basically, they're large bombs that you'll use later on to take out the Ko-Dan enemy cities. These little three big rectangles here are supposed to indicate which weapons are currently available. On the computerized versions of this game, which eventually it did see a release as Star Raiders 2 on the XL and XE line, although with some gameplay elements changed. But on the 5200 version, these will automatically change based on whatever screen you're on. And then up above, you'll see that we have kind of this teal or green line that goes across. This is your current energy reading. Obviously, when your energy gets low all the way to the left, your ship explodes, your gun star explodes, and the game is over. Up at the top, you have your score. Over here, you have your computer status display. Right now, it shows that I have the game paused. Now, The Last Starfighter is a one-player game, and basically, it's comprised of two primary goals. The first is to protect all of your planets and allied cities from the invading Ko-Dan fleets. The second thing is that once you've essentially secured your own star system to a safe point, then you can take the fight back to them and take out their cities and fleets back in their home star system of Procyon. But the game starts you off above the planet Rylos, and immediately you have to defend it against enemy fighters. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and dispatch these fighters as quickly as I can. Now right now, I had a message there for a second at the top that said that the barrier was under attack. That means that the frontier itself is actually under attack. So what I need to do is to press the 1 button to go to my galactic map. Just like this. Now the galactic map shows us all kinds of interesting things. First of all, the current planet that's surrounded in the white dashed circle, that is the current location where I am, which is again on the planet Rylos. Now underneath you'll see that whatever you have highlighted, be it an enemy fleet or in this case a planet, it'll give you some details about the planet. It says what kind of planet it is. In this case it's a temperate climate. It shows that I have 4 fighters. This is enemy fighters, by the way. If there are any destroyers as well that are invading the planet, it'll show us that. And then of course it shows how many allied cities we have left. Now also of note is you're going to see these little blinking red dots around the outer perimeter of the solar system here. Well, that outer perimeter that's essentially in the color purple, that is actually the frontier. It is a giant barrier to prevent the Ko-Dan fleets from easily invading the Salos 4 system. Those blinking red dots indicate command ships that are currently attacking the barrier that must be taken out. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to move the controller to one of those red blinking locations, and I will show you how we take them out. This is the command ship trying to take out the frontier. I just have to hit the fire button to blow it up just like that. Then I'm going to hit the 1 button again to switch to the next system, or to the next red dot in this case. Take out the next enemy command ship. And then finally I'm going to go up here and take out the 3rd one. By the way, I'm using the fire button to hyperspace between each location. There we go. We have just temporarily gotten rid of most of the enemy fleet that was invading the frontier. Now I'm going to go back to the planet Rylos and get rid of those remaining 4 fighters that are attacking the planet. Got it. The planet Rylos is currently saved. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to check the other planets to see if they have any enemies currently attacking them. Looks like so far the other locations are safe. Excellent. So at this point I have a couple of options. What I could do is, you will now notice that there are some little white blinking specks around the outer edge of the frontier. Those are other enemy squadrons that are trying to approach and come in and attack. Some of them may try to take out the barrier again, and some of them may just be able to slip through and still come on to attack your planets. The other thing I can do is right up here in the far upper left-hand corner is another set of dots. They're actually kind of a reddish color with a white dot in the center. Well, that's actually the enemy star system, Procyon, and I can actually warp to that and start taking the fight to them. But what I think I'm going to do for right now is I found a very interesting strategy with this. It seems that the fleets can only start to attack the barrier if there are fighter ships present within those fleets. Well, most of the fleets contain both fighters and destroyers. So if you can take out the fighters first and leave the destroyers basically have no choice but to just hover around the frontier, unable to actually attack the allied cities. Pretty cool little tip and trick that I found. So that's what I'm going to do first, is I'm going to now start going after each of these and take out just the enemy fighters. Now each squadron will contain anywhere from usually about, I think the least I've ever seen was maybe 6 fighters to as many as like 16. And I'm sure that with the higher difficulty levels there'll be even more fighters to have to contend with. Additionally, most of these fighter squadrons will have at least 1, if not more, destroyers. That's what a destroyer looks like. But I'm not interested in a destroyer. I'm interested in taking out the other fighters first. Now you'll also notice as I'm sitting here fighting and I'm taking enemy shots that my energy is also being reduced. That energy bar I spoke of at the beginning. Well, occasionally I'm going to have to recharge that. Also, sometimes when taking hits from the enemy, they might damage other systems. Okay, so right now I'm running out of energy, and the way you recharge is you actually warp to the sun in the center of the solar system. While you're waiting for your systems to recharge, go ahead and switch back to the galactic map and highlight your next target so that as soon as you get to the end of the recharge, right there, you can immediately warp where you need to go. Now, one thing to keep in mind, once you're charged up all the way, if you stick around for even a few seconds longer, the ship itself will actually melt due to the heat of the sun. So it's very important that you not stick around. In fact, it'll even tell you that the hull temperature has gone critical. Okay, so I've already taken out the fighters there as well. I'm going to go to this next system. I know that because it was showing me a destroyer in the radar. All right, here we go. Let's get these fighters out. Now, the fighters always attack in groups of 3 if there's enough of them to do so. Now, once you've reduced the enemy fighters down to only like 1 or 2, then obviously you would only see 1 or 2 that would come back after you. So let's say you only take out like 1 or 2 out of the group of 3 and they take off. Well, then what will happen is the one that got left behind, like this guy's probably going to do. Oh, nope, I got him. He'll actually regroup with the others. Okay, he's the last fighter because he's the only one that came out. Got him. Another destroyer is going to show up, but I'm not interested in that right now. I'm going to go over here and see if there's any enemy fighters here to take care of. There is not. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and refill my energy again real quick. And it looks like the frontier's under attack. So I'm going to go ahead and get that highlighted, ready to go. Now I'm going to warp. Take out the ship. And at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and take the fight to them. So I'm now going to go to the Procyon system. And immediately I'll be above one of the enemy planets and always being attacked by enemy fighters. Ignore the fighters. Instead, use the secondary buttons on your controller to start using your surface starbursts to take out the enemy cities. The reason for this is quite simple. As long as there are enemy cities and bases left intact on any of the enemy planets, they will constantly be rebuilding Ko-Dan fighter ships that will always be trying to attack the Celos 4 system. And you'll notice that as I fire off these starbursts, that my ammunition count is dropping. The cool thing about this is that you can actually guide your shots a little bit. All right, it looks like I am out of those and I've suffered some damage. Now the cool thing is you can still go to the enemy's binary stars to recharge just like you could with your own system. You'll automatically refill with your surface starbursts and any damage that has been sustained to your Gunstar. All right, there's only one enemy planet left. Okay, the barrier's currently under attack, but I'm actually going to let it go. There is a risk reward to be had in this, and that you kind of have to balance between going after the enemy's cities and protecting your own. Now, the enemy fighters are non-stop on the enemy planets, so it really doesn't do any good to attack them. They're really just more of a distraction. Even though they're damaging you, your focus should always be to just bomb the enemy cities. There we go. Those are taken out. Now let's take it to the planet Ko-Dan. Now I'm going to have to fill up pretty soon as I'm almost out of surface starbursts. Now occasionally when taking damage, some of that damage might actually be your surface starburst launchers or your missile launchers, or directional controls might start to go sluggish if they've done engine damage. And I only have one of those left. There we go. Let's go to their planet, or to their star system. We're going to recharge. And I am going to take them out. They have 8 cities left. And again, the purpose behind taking out their cities is that with their cities destroyed, they no longer have the ability to build any more enemy fighters. And hence, I won't have to worry about any more enemy fighters showing up from the Procyon system to attack my allied cities in the Celos 4 system. There we go. Okay, I just destroyed all of the enemy bases. It actually had a message up at the top, briefly, that said, all bases destroyed. And in this case, it meant the enemy bases. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to warp back to the center, recharge again real quick, and then I'm going to go ahead and target this enemy squadron right here. And if we're lucky, this might be the squadron that contains the actual Ko-Dan command ship. It's not unusual to actually encounter that early in the game versus at the end. Taking it out, unfortunately, doesn't automatically end the game. To end the game, you have to be successful in destroying all of the enemy fleets, as well as the enemy bases. Now, this is one of the destroyers. They can be tough to get to. You basically have to essentially time it just right and guide your shots. Uh-oh, they've damaged my photon launchers. So I have to warp back to the center to get repaired. And now I'm going to go back again. Blue destroyers are actually the easiest to destroy in that they only take 2 shots usually to take them down, with the first shot reflecting off the shields, the second shot destroying them. Green ones take 3. And then the worst is the red ones, which can take, well, at least 4, and I've had some take 6 before. Here's a green one. Now he's going to take 3 hits to take him out. Okay, barrier's under attack again. Okay, there's the 3 shots taking him out. And there it is, the Ko-Dan command ship. Had a feeling this would be it. Now this thing's pretty devastating. And what you have to do to take it out is you have to hit the dead center of it, where that blinking red is. And it is very damaging. And he's taken off. I didn't destroy him in time. I've also sustained some damage and I'm running out of energy, so I'm going to get recharged. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and head back to my home star system and Celos 4. Because it's time to go after some of the enemy fleets. Now, whether or not I encounter the Ko-Dan command ship again is up for debate. I'm hoping it'll show up again, but that may have been my one and only chance to really get to take them out. I've actually been able to play this game before and defeat all of the fleets without even seeing the Ko-Dan command ship. So it doesn't always appear in every game. Okay, so nothing left here but the destroyer. Let's check out some of the other star systems or the other enemy squadrons to see if they got fighters. Nope, no fighters here. Check the next one. No fighters. Check the next one. Okay, we have fighters here. And the easiest way to also be able to tell is that the little crosshairs change. Quite a lot of fighters in this squadron. Wow. There are a lot of flashing lights as well, so I may have to put a warning at the beginning of this video. Okay, once again, I'm checking to see what's left. Okay, just destroyers. I'm actually running out of energy, so I'm going to refuel again real quick at the sun, and then I'm going to check this enemy squadron right here to see what we're up against. Now, you will notice that it doesn't give you information about the enemy squadron itself. It just simply says Ko-Dan Squadron. Okay, great. So we've got ourselves a nice little red destroyer here. And again, the red destroyers take a lot more hits. At least 4, sometimes more. Now, one other strategy I've learned about this game that's pretty cool is that if you're having difficulty with a particular destroyer because it happens to be a red one, like is the case there, you can sometimes leave, warp to another area in the game, and when you come back, the destroyer might actually change to an easier one, like a blue one in this case. But that doesn't always happen. Uh-oh, I just got notification that one of my allied cities has been destroyed. That means that one of my planets is actually under attack. So as soon as I can dispatch this fleet, this enemy fleet, I need to find out who it is that's under attack. Okay. Let's see if we can find out which planet it is. Okay, this one here has 3 destroyers, 6 fighters. It could be that planet. That one, ooh, 15 fighters and destroyers. 3 destroyers. And nobody at this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this one first because it has destroyers already on it and no fighters. Now this is actually going to be really cool because I found a really cool trick for quickly taking these guys out. When they're on a planet, their primary focus is to always go after your allied cities. Therefore, if you can find a city, they will always hover and want to stay near it. They will take shots at you as well, but it's a good way to go ahead and take a few hits in. As you'll see, they're more concerned about hitting the allied city, and they're just going straight up and down. Aha! Makes it easy to quickly take them out. Just like that. So really, the destroyers are easiest to take out when they're attacking your planets. I seem to recall that there are a few fighters here. Yes, here they are. Uh-oh, I'm running out of energy already. Wasn't paying attention to that earlier. Actually, there are a lot of fighters on this planet. I might want to go after this one first. I need to liberate all the enemy from this planet. I was going to say, we know they're here. Goodness. Got him. Okay, there's 3. Remember, there's 15 total on this one, and then I've got 3 destroyers to deal with as well. System malfunction, huh? Well, let's hope it's not my photons. Last Fighter. Okay, let's see if we can find... Uh-oh. It is my photons they took out, so I'm going to have to repair real quick. Go ahead and get the Ceritus selected in my galactic chart here. Go ahead and warp on over. And let's see if we can find one of our allied cities. There's one. Remember what I said, the allied cities are a great distraction. They could take it out in the process if you're not quick enough, but I've actually only had that happen a couple of times. It's really easy to time the shots when you know exactly where they're headed. And that was the last of them. I'm going to check the other planets again real quick just to make sure. No destroyers, no fighters. Rylos is also clean. No destroyers, no fighters. So that takes us back to Arcanum. 3 fighters, 3 destroyers. So there should just be 1 squadron of fighters to take out. There they are. And they're already gone. Okay. Got him. And I already have a home allied base right there. Uh-oh, a red one. Nice. Okay, so at this point, I think all of the current planets are secured. It's time to finish off the remaining squadrons and win the game. Now this will be a little trickier because I'm going to have to take these destroyers out while in space. And the timing on this is more complicated. These green ones can be really pesky sometimes, even more so than the red ones. Alright, that was the last one. Let's go get some more energy. And then we only have what look to be 2 squadrons left to deal with. Here we go. Oh, red one. This will be more of a challenge. Again, they fire faster and they're a little quicker and more erratic in their movements. Therefore, they can be a lot more difficult to predict where they're going to be. I think I've gotten about 4 hits on him so far. There we go. And he was the last one. Nice. What I'm going to do real quick is to see if I can't find the Ko-Dan command ship again. Maybe. Doesn't look like it here. So they may have just escaped, and that's just going to be all there is to that. Alright, let's go after the last squadron. I don't know how many destroyers we have here. Okay, so we have at least 2. This guy's being a real jerk. I thought I had that last shot. There we go. Another blue one. Alright, so we need 2 hits to take him out, of course. There's one. Almost. And that's it. That was the last of them. I have won the game. Congratulations, Starfighter. You have defeated the Ko-Dan Empire. So that's it at this point. That's the end of the game. And of course you get a final high score tally up here. And then I believe over here you'll see a repeat of the score. That's because I think multiple successive replays, the current highest score will always be displayed over here between gameplay. So yeah, that's it. That's the Last Starfighter, and those are my basic tips and tricks. So I don't know that there's ever actually been official instructions released for this game, but it's really not too difficult to play, but it is most definitely a lot of fun. Thanks again for joining me this evening and this little gameplay strategy for the Atari 5200 release of the Last Starfighter. I'll catch you guys next time.